As we go on to topic 7 of chapter 1, we're going into a problem solving and models, a little bit of an introduction. And again, the textbook has lots of stuff on this, and they speak of a 5-step strategy. Well, what are the steps here? Well, number 1 is to read the problem and read it again, and maybe even a third or fourth time, because you want to really understand what they want and what they're asking. And then a diagram, a picture, a chart, a table, something to help you see what's there. Then you're going to translate it into an algebraic expression here, this second point. And then you solve the equation. Now, once you solve the equation, you get some sort of answer, and then how does that answer fit into what is originally asked in the problem? And then you check it and give your answer statement. Okay, so let's try a few of these, and they're going to start us off easy as we go along. And remember, the answers are down below. Now, let's take a look at this. 6 more than Elena's age. So, do we know what Elena's age is? No. So let's call that E for Elena's age. And what would be 6 more than that? Well, E plus 6. Let's look at B, the difference of A and C. Now, a key word there is difference. So A and C would be the difference. How about the product of a picture's length and width? Well, as you look at this, what I see here is area equals length times width. That would be the product of a picture's length, there's your length, and width. And they may not be asking that that is area, maybe only LW. When you do your practice, that's when you see if in fact what you are entering as answers is what they're looking for. If it's not, you get a wrong answer and you see, oh, that's what they wanted. That's part of the learning as you practice. You don't always have to be super right the first time. You are making an attempt. You're being creative. You're trying things out. And that's what practice does. Focuses you on what you need to do to get the answer. Now, here's another word that often is mystifying to students, the word quotient. All that means is the fraction, that's what quotient is, a fraction of, and the first thing they give you goes on top, and the second thing they give you goes on the bottom. That is the quotient of y and z. Okay? Now let's move it up a little bit. And we'll work on number 2. Oh, we did 2 already. Let's do number 3 then. as they start to give us more and more detail. Now, using the 5-step strategy, solve each of the following problems. So what I'm going to do here, and I'm hoping this is what you do every once in a while, is to pause the tape to read it a number of times and start picking stuff out. So I spent some time reading this, and we see that Kathleen's house, I'm going to put a K there, for Kathleen's house is 4,225 feet from Amber's house. Okay, I'm just putting on a little diagram the information they've given me. Now, an ice cream shop is 4 times closer to Kathleen's house than to Amber's house. So we're going to take this distance, and this is going to be 4 times the distance here, and this is going to be 1 times the distance. So this is 4 distances, or 4 times the distance that this ice cream parlor is from Kathleen's house. So how far away from Kathleen's house is the ice cream shop? Well, our basic equation would be D plus 4D equals 4225. That would be 4 times the distance and then 1 times the distance. And this is the ice cream shop right here. So we get 5D equals 4225. Divide both sides by 5, and we get D equals 845. Now, I had worked this all out. I wrote it out on paper and went through probably a very similar process that you will be doing when you do word problems. You're going to read it again, make some sort of diagram to help you get an overview of what you're looking at, start putting variables, develop an equation, solve the equation, and in this case, we look down at the bottom to see if I got the right answer, and in your case, you're going to put it into MATLAB as practice, and then as you develop mastery, you put it into QuizMe's. Okay, let's look at the next one. Again, we're going to read it carefully. The house on one side of Elm Street has consecutive even numbers. The sum of the numbers of the 3 houses is this. What is the house number? Well, if you looked at the lesson that I did as I went over the textbook, or have read the textbook, they give you a lesson something like this. If you have the numbers 6, 7, and 8, these are 3 consecutive numbers. If you have the numbers like this, 6, 8, 10, these are 3 consecutive even numbers. And if you have something like this, 7, 9, 11, these are consecutive odd numbers. Now, you want to convert something like this, a series of numbers, into algebra. And the first number of your series usually is x. All of these would stand for our first number in this series, that is x. Well, if 6 is x, how do I write 7 in terms of 6? And the answer is x plus 1. So if x is 6, 6 plus 1 is 7. How do I write 8? X plus 2. 6 plus 2 is 8. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. And by the way, this is the algebraic expressions for any 3 consecutive numbers. Whatever this first number is, then the next one is 1 more. The one after that, 2 more. All right, now this number is 6. How do I write 8? Now the next consecutive even number. How do I write 8? If you said x plus 2, that is correct. And how about 10? X plus 4. So if we start with an even number, adding 2 makes the next even number. Now here, this is sometimes confusing for students, but check it out. Here, I'm starting with an odd number, 7. How many do I have to add to 7 to get 9, the next odd number? Yes, x plus 2 still. And here, x plus 4. And you might say, wait a minute, this line and this line are the same. Well, again, the key is what number do you start with? If you start with an even, adding 2 gives you an even. If you start with an odd, adding 2 gives you the next odd. So don't get messed up by saying, oh, this is even and this is even and these are odd. It depends on what number you start with. So now let's take a look at this. The sum of the numbers, they're consecutive even numbers. Okay. We have 3 houses. So we're going to actually use this formula right here in a sense. So it's going to be x plus x plus 2 plus x plus 4, and that's going to equal 378. So 1, 2, 3, there's 3 x's, plus 6, collecting like terms. Now we're going to subtract 6 from both sides, so we get 3x equals 372. And now we're going to divide both sides by 3. So that gives me x. X3 goes into there. I'm going to do this without a calculator. So 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 7 twice, and a 1 left over, so I get 162. Now you might say, well, there's my answer. Well, sort of, it's a start, but they're saying, what are the house numbers here? So you have to write all 3. 126, 128, and 130. And if you were to add those up, they should add up to what we have there. Let me check that. Well, so much for dividing 3 into 12 and getting 6. How about 4? Yes. Check your work carefully because I could make an error shooting it thinking I was so smart. Okay, 124, 126, 128. Add those up and it makes 378. So again, when you're taking a test, you want to be super careful. When you're just practicing, you can make little errors like this, but on a test, you need to be super careful. So there's the background. We read it carefully. We got our equation, had everything right, but then I didn't divide correctly here. So Uh, 3 goes into 12 4 times. I was thinking 2 into 12. Well, there you go. All right, well, let's go on. The Decise are selling their house. They would like to make this much money after paying 5% of the selling price to the real estate agent as a commission. So how much should they sell their house for? Okay, let's pause, read it, and see what we can come up with. So let's do some brainstorming together here. What is this? This is the money they want to have after they sell their house and have to pay a 5% selling price, 5% commission, so to speak, on the selling price. So do we know the selling price? No, this is what it is afterwards. So where algebra comes in, we're going to say let X be the selling price. All right? Now, what amount or what percent does this represent of the selling price if they have to pay somebody 5% as a commission to sell the house? Let's just do a little picture of it here. This is 100% of what that X stands for there. They have to pay 5% of that 100%. So this amount is the total less 5%. So this is what percent of that total? I don't know if you could see it, but it's 95%. So 95% of that total cost of the house is this, and that's your equation. So how do we get the answer? Well, we divide now both by 95. And that'll give us our answer. So when I do that, and you can just use your calculator for that, you end up with $246,000 should be their asking price if they want to end up with this after paying 5%. And again, some of you may still not see that, but look at this carefully and you can watch the tape again. Okay, let's go on to the next one here. One of the parks in, well, I'll let you read it and then we'll get back to it. Okay, so when we think of this problem, we have to know what a quadrilateral is. And basically, it's just a four-sided figure. And it doesn't make any difference what your measurements are around here. It's just that it's quadrilateral, four-sided figure. Now, the measure of the largest angle is 3 times the measure of the smallest angle. Now, what you don't know here is what is the smallest angle. So we're going to say this side is the smallest angle, S. So the largest one is going to be 3S. So so far we know a smallest angle, and we know 3 times the smallest. Then the third angle is 50 more than the smallest angle. So this is the smallest angle plus 50. And then the last angle, the fourth angle, is 10 less than 3 times the smallest. Well, 3 times the smallest minus 10. There are my 4 angles. Now, again, I had to read this a couple of times. I had to think to make a picture and identify each of my angles. Now, of course, this is not proportioned to what the sizes should be, but to give you an idea where to put things and sort of organize. Now, another thing you need to know that every quadrilateral is 360 degrees. That's from your geometry days. So your equation then will be S plus 3S plus 3S minus 10 plus S plus 50 equals 360. So again, this is tedious and time consuming. You had to know quadrilateral. And again, I've said all of this. Look at it, pause it. Now what do you do? Well, how many S's do we have? 1, 4, 7, 8. 8 S's. And this is a negative 10, a positive 50. So that's going to give me a 40 equals 360. And then now we're going to subtract this from both sides. And that'll give us 8S. After I subtracted that from both sides, S will equal 40. So S is 40. 40 plus 50 is 90. 3 times 40 is 120, minus 10 is 110. And 3 times 40 is 120. And there are my 4 angles. And look at, we got the right answer too. Again, I worked this out. I did some thinking, looking at it, thinking about it, making a picture, and I knew some stuff about quadrilaterals and things. Okay, let's go on to our last one now. The table below lists the total amount paid to buy particular number of tickets. Find the equation for the total cost of the concert tickets for a person buying N tickets. So the number of tickets is N. And we'll have to think about that too. We see the answer down there. Cost is 25N. Okay, part of this is to figure out what they're asking. And I didn't know what they were asking initially. But then after looking at the chart here, if 2 tickets cost $50, 4 tickets 100, 6 tickets 150, what is the cost per ticket? Well, can you see it's $25? Now, again, whether I would know to put it like that, that's pretty tricky there. But I know that each ticket cost $25. That's the cost of each ticket. And then N is the number of tickets that you sell. So if there are 2 tickets, 2 times 25 gives you the 50. Again, that's pretty tricky stuff there. And hopefully you're not going to get anything that challenging, but it's good to get the mind working and thinking about these things. Okay, so just about 25 minutes. I did spend more time than that, and you will probably spend more time than that as well.